everybody, and welcome to the California Conservative Show, a place on TV where a conservative can actually speak their mind. Today is a very important Tea Party episode, and our first guest is the wonderful Mr. Mark Williams. Mark Williams is not only a very important Tea Party icon, but he's also a radio personality and author of the book, Taking Back America, One Tea Party at a Time. Mark, it's great to have you on the show, buddy.
It's basically the manifesto for the Tea Party movement, how it started, what the issues are, the major issues, primarily the economic issues that gave birth to the real spark of the Tea Party, which incidentally began, contrary to popular mythology, actually began to brew during the Bush administration, especially when we had a couple of summers ago the then outrageous $4 a gallon gas, the TARP program, and the tea was simmering. It boiled over after Barack Obama was elected president, and he started ramming through Obamacare and vowing to ram through other socialist policies, Marxist policies that he grew up with. And that brought it to a head on a February day in 2009, when across the country, including here in Sacramento, people started gathering, and that was the birth of the whole Tea Party movement. And since then, it's turned into a civil war within the Republican Party as the Tea Partiers begin to systematically, hopefully, run out of the Republican Party those so-called rhinos, Republicans in name only, who have occupied the party and just destroyed anything that it had to do with principle or the principles of Reagan and Lincoln, from which it came, and has just turned politics on its head. It's been an amazing thing to watch. I mean, our first tour, I've been on 4 national bus tours, almost 200 cities speaking for the Tea Party. And on that first tour, we rolled into some cities where there was absolutely nobody showed up to hear what we had to say. With one glaring exception, which was Chicago, where 12,000 people turned out in an amphitheater, which told us that we were on the right track, and the people who knew the president the best were the ones who turned out. And until my last tour about a year ago, when we kicked off in Searchlight, Nevada, a town of 500 people out in the middle of nowhere, and close to 35,000 people showed up. So it's, and on Boston Common, my hometown Boston Common, 12,000, 15,000 people showed up to hear us and Sarah Palin. So it's been like reliving the 1960s as a grown-up and on the right side of things.
Well, I know it's very exciting. I've seen that they actually had went through with the satellite and were trying to count the heads of people, and it looked like the area that you guys had to occupy was actually 4 times occupied than what it should have been.
Yeah, it was, normally there's nothing out there, but yeah, we were actually able to take the aerial shots and grid them off and literally count the heads of a few grids and then extrapolate from there how many people. So it was quite a thing to see.
So there's not any way you could be able to really tell how many people actually support the event, because all the people who actually support the event are busy trying to go to their jobs, right?
Trying to, yeah, a lot of people. That's one of the problems with working stiff middle class activism is that we all, for the most part, get jobs and responsibilities, whereas the people who have systematically destroyed the fabric of our constitutional form of government don't. Their job is doing exactly that. I mean, I mentioned my hometown is Boston. I grew up during the tail end of the Vietnam era, and when my home city was in flames and race riots because of forced desegregation. And there were quite a few of us who turned out into the streets to stand between the idiots with the Molotov cocktails and the school buses full of black kids. But when we would organize, I was still in school, I would go to the organizing office in Cambridge to pick up the flyers for handing out the stuff envelopes. And I'd walk in, and there were North Vietnamese flags, pictures of Ho Chi Minh. We were handed little red books of Mao, and it turned out that what was a righteous cause, I mean, not throwing Molotov cocktails, the school buses full of black kids, is, to stand against that, okay, no brainer, but that was an opportunity for the Socialist Workers' Party, the American Communist Party, and other subversive groups to actively recruit young idealistic people like me. I walked away from that. I stuck for the protests, and I stuck, with the activism, but I never fell into the ideology. I went the other way. I ultimately became a radio talk show host and a very lonely conservative in Massachusetts on many issues. And those people kept at it. That's the folks who were doing the organizing in Cambridge in 1973 and 1974 stayed with that subversive activity and that recruitment, and gave birth to the generation of political leaders we have now, primarily Democrats. And that's, when you look at that, you realize that true Americans go on to live the American dream of pursuing happiness. And then you get these other people for whom their entire life is about destroying that.
Well, now, if there's so many people that are supporters of the Tea Party movement, how come we have so many liberals being elected into positions that are not going to support the same event?
Well, I think you're seeing that begin to turn. I mean, the last election cycle, the midterm 2010 election cycle, was astonishing in that more than 100 Tea Party candidates across the country were elected to office. We had some high-profile losses: Sharon Angle in Nevada, Joe Miller in Alaska, in Delaware we had a loss. But by the very same token, we had some major advances, major wins in Utah, and Michelle Bachmann in the Tea Party caucus, and Rand Paul. And what we're seeing now is the Tea Party candidates in Congress and in other offices as kind of a toehold, like the Marines on the beach at Iwo Jima or Normandy. I mean, now it's time for the Tea Party to swarm into the Republican Party, overthrow the rhinos who run it, and reinforce those folks we have on the beach, and influence the 2012 election now. Because if all you do is show up and vote in 2012, forget about it. You've done nothing. It's now is when the candidates will be elected and selected. And we run the risk of by not being active, of letting the media elect the next Republican candidate, or a bunch of folks in Iowa and New Hampshire whittle it down with the assistance of the media. Tea Partiers need to be active at every level of government, and every level especially of the Republican Party.
Well, now, I've seen already the Tea Parties that we had in Texas were huge, and I saw the ones we had in D.C. were huge. But it seemed like there was a wave that swept all the way across the country and stopped at California. Now, why is that?
For some reason, that was a real yeah, the Tea Party did kind of turn Donner Party on us when it got to the past, didn't it? It never made it over the top of the High Sierra. And that was one of the real frustrations we had on the Tea Party Express, because the Tea Party movement is essentially based in Sacramento. And to get anything done in this state was next to impossible. We had some very large rallies here in Sacramento and San Diego. In Napa Valley always has good turnouts as well, but with Pam and her folks. But we didn't see the same kind of grassroots upswelling here. And the only thing that we can really suggest to that is that California is in such an advanced state of decay and denial, and along with places like New York and Michigan, where there isn't enough life left in the old girl just yet to rise up. I mean, this is a movement that is going to have to take root in Middle America and spread out from there until it gets to the point where California is going to have no choice but to join the Union again.
Okay, so what do you think that people outside can do to help the Tea Party and to help fix the budget?
Get involved. I mean, especially here in California, for example, in the budget. You need to be involved in the process now. You need to be, if you can spare the time at the Capitol, paying attention, or even watching on public access, whatever it takes to at least know what they're talking about, what's going on. You need to be pressuring, especially pressuring if you have a Republican representative, an assembly person or senator. Lean on them like an 800-pound gorilla and tell them, do not back down. Don't go all Roger Nilo on us and say, oh my God, we have to compromise. We have to get along. Compromise in the language of too many liberal Republicans is another word for surrender. We have to get along because they must like us. You know, a little wretchedness is okay. You know, compromise. We have to make sacrifice. What they're looking to do is sacrifice opportunity, sacrifice our country, sacrifice our individual rights. You need to be involved, and I can't emphasize enough, one of the first things we've got to do, and we're doing it, it's happened in New Hampshire, it happened in Utah, it's happening elsewhere in the country, is we've got to have a coup in the Republican Party. It just frustrates me to hear people say, well, the Tea Party is being taken over by the Republicans. Other way around. We're eating the Republican Party alive, and we're restoring it to its roots from Lincoln and Reagan.
Now, it really seems like one of the biggest problems in California is that this message is coming out, but for some reason the Republicans are not getting it.
Yeah.
What can we do about that problem?
We have a bunch of dusty old white guys who got to go. We have a bunch of, they're not holding their positions in the party or even in elective office because they had an ideal. They have a reason not be. The reason they have to be there isn't ideological. It's not public service. It's because they need the job, and they like the benefits. And the point of being elected is to have a reason to be elected. You know, too often the Republican motto is, elect us because we're not in. Okay, well, what are you going to do when you get there? I don't know, I'm going to get along. Get along. We got that now. Getting along got us, you know, massive tax increases and a catastrophic budget.
Well, it seems to me like if you're going to apply for a job, and one of the things that the government's been trying to do with the Tea Party movement is trying to match up the public sector with the private sector. And so you say, if I want to get elected to this position, and I was going to give a comparable, like I wanted to apply for a job, you would say, if I was elected, I'm going to go on to do this, I'm going to go on to do this, I'm going to go on to do this, we're going to do this. Now, if I want to get reelected, I would say, while I was in office, I did this, I did this, I did this. I didn't get to finish my agenda, but if you give me more time, I'll be able to do this, do this, do this. I just don't see those kind of things happening. What can we do to push that?
Well, the agenda they're fulfilling and the things they are accomplishing are why we're in trouble. Because when they get into office, the whole point is to stay in office. Because the whole point of running was to be in office. Now they get to stay in office, or they've got to stay in whatever post they hold in the party. So you start you start making with the favors. You start handing out money to the public union. You start handing out money to this pressure group. You start handing out money to this political lobby. You carry a bill for this particular special interest. That's how you stay in office. The only people not represented under the big white Puzzle Palace dome in downtown Sacramento are the tax-paying, working, stiff Californians. They're not being represented by anybody. They're not represented by the unions. They're not represented by the vast majority of the people in the legislature. And they sure as hell are not represented by Jerry Brown.
Well, what can we do to hold them accountable? Because it seems like they just have the free right to do whatever they want.
We have forgotten something here in California that they have learned elsewhere in some states, like Utah is a great example. We can't elect a champion of the people until we control the party apparatus that actually does the electing. You need to have a horse to ride in the Kentucky Derby. You just don't throw a jockey out there and say, see you at the finish line. What they learned in Utah, and I don't know how many people know the story about when Senator Bob Bennett lost out in the caucus, the Republican caucus, for what is normally a rubber stamp to run for re-election. He lost by virtue of one woman, a lady named Mitzi in St. George, who was a Tea Partier and a 912er. She got on Twitter, her email accounts, this is a retired lady, 60-something years old, on Facebook, and she put together a coalition of Tea Party and 912 citizens to go to Salt Lake City to be caucus members. In that room, 2,500 of the 3,500 Republican caucus members were hers. They overthrew the party leadership. Same thing happened in New Hampshire. We need to do that here in California. That's a very difficult road to hoe because we've got a Republican party apparatus and an infrastructure that is as entrenched and difficult to extract as the Democrats are from the majority. And until we lose them and repopulate the Republican Party hierarchy with Tea Partiers, Patriots, 912ers, we're not going to be able to elect anybody to office.
All right, everybody, this is Mark Williams, and he is going to be this book right here, so I definitely recommend that you guys go out and pick up a copy.
It's on Amazon, and it's on marktalk.com.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Jim Ricketts with the Independence Caucus. The Independence Caucus is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to researching and recruiting, endorsing, and supporting fiscally responsible candidates who will adhere to the Constitution. This state needs people who are responsible, who are fiscally responsible, and will put the state back in order. The Independence Caucus is dedicated to finding those candidates and presenting them to you. If you'd like to help us, please go to our website at www.icaucus.org and join us. And between us, we'll take back this state. Thank you very much.
Our next guest is a very important person, Miss Pam Silleman. Pam is a Tea Party icon. She's a fabulous woman. She's going in the right directions, and she has the right message for us. Miss Pam, so you have a big Tea Party event that's kicking off in August. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, George, this is the most exciting thing that we've ever done at the Napa Tea Party. Of course, we've been alive as long as the other tea parties have, right from the beginning. And what's happened this time, I've gotten to be friends with a lot of the people that are with Tea Party Express. Amy Krimmer and I have become very, very close friends. And she was out to help me move about a month or so ago. And she actually made me cry because she said, Pam, she said, I was talking to Sal, this is Sal Russo, the man that kind of runs the Tea Party Express buses and stuff. She said, Pam, we'd like to have Tea Party 5 send-off party come out of Napa. I'm like, oh, Napa? Because that's a big deal. I don't know if, I'm sure you know, but I mean, they have tens of thousands of people show up for these rallies. And like, golly, when they were out in the middle of the desert of Nevada, they had like 30,000 people drive for an hour and a half in the hot sun. So just imagine how many people are going to come to gorgeous Napa for a party in August. So yes. I'm scared.
The wine train, absolutely.
Yeah, the wine train, and
yes.
I mean, great restaurants, and it's going to be fabulous. But there's a big difference about this rally and this tour being the kickoff the presidential campaigns. Mm-hmm. We are going to invite all of the candidates, whoever is
willing to run, and that's bipartisan, right? So
it's bipartisan. Yeah,
absolutely.
We're totally bipartisan. So
okay.
You know, we'll see if Barack comes. He'll be invited.
Yes.
But they'll be invited to Napa we'll have a Chi-Chi dinner on Friday, August 19th. Save the date. The Napa Fairgrounds will be the location. We'll have a lovely dinner that night, and then the next day, Saturday at noon, we'll have the kickoff rally. We've got bands, of course, and we have celebrities coming in, and just everybody is just so nice. So just can't wait to get there and help, you know. The Napa Fairgrounds has a beautiful new stage, and it's going to be a wonderful event. Morimoto's restaurant, which is very, very cool in Napa, they've offered to have another third dinner, like the little Chi-Chi, ultimate Chi-Chi dinner Saturday night. So maybe some of the candidates, we'll have to charge big bucks for that though. But the kickoff party noon, the Napa Fairgrounds will hold 60,000 people. So I think you know, we might have 20, 30,000 people. So yeah, I'm pretty scared, but excited.
Wow.
Because you're missing the best part. Sorry, very best part. We have the rally, the bus takes off, they drive around the United States, they end up in Tampa, Florida on September 12th, and this is the good part. CNN has asked Tea Party Express to hold a presidential debate where they have Tea Party coordinators from around the country actually asking the questions of the candidates. And we get the questions from our local members. So like the local Napa Tea Party people will pick questions, give them to me, and we'll ask the questions to the candidates. They won't have beforehand knowledge of the question, and they're coming from real people. So it's wonderful. We've never done anything like this. So it's a Tea Party debate on CNN, and that'll be September 12th, live from Tampa.
Can I make a special request?
Yes, sir. You want a question?
Yes. You know, you guys have a lot of motorcyclists that are involved in these kind of things, right?
Yes.
Maybe you guys should hook up a video camera to one of the people's helmets that are following around, ooh, and then you guys could put that on the website, and then we could follow the Tea Party Express while it actually moves.
Live?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I know you guys are tweetering those things and your Facebook and everything, and I'm like, you guys are all on it, but that might be kind of something exciting you guys might want to consider.
You know, we do have quite a few motorcyclists. And I know they've had videographers travel with the bus, but I don't think they've had anybody on a motorcycle follow them.
Yeah, I'm like, that actually just shows you exactly where they're at. Yeah, that's kind of
they've been attacked. I mean, the last time they had people, you know, ganging up on them, throwing stuff, trying to sabotage the bus, and all kinds of crazy stuff.
You know, there are a lot of ex-military people. I don't think they're too worried about it.
No, we're not worried. No, they should be worried. We're not.
I'm like, you guys are rolling in a 30,000 pack. I don't think you guys have to be too worried.
No, but I'm really excited. It's the biggest thing that we've got going so far. I don't know how I'm going to get it done.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot of work. I mean, just even thinking about the permits and all the work that goes into something like that, 30,000 people coming to your doorstep, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How early do they start coming? Do they come like a week before in advance, or, I mean...
Oh, the buses themselves? I think they start...
No, I mean the people that are coming to attend the event. I mean, they're coming from all the way across the country.
Well, yeah, we've got an RV park there, and that was another thing I had to think of. A lot of people drive in their RVs. So in taking consideration where to have this, the fairgrounds was really about the only thing I could think of that could accommodate a lot of easy access, you know, 3 main thoroughfares to get there because the traffic jam is going to be pretty big. And we have RV parking, and plenty of great hotels nearby, so they could stay at the hotel and walk down to the rallies and the dinners. it's going to be like a Tea Party fiesta.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Do you guys ever have problems where you have too many people that you can't accommodate them, or do they ever think about doing something where they're like, you guys are exceeding your guys' capacity?
You know what? Not
I know
yet.
they had a tea party at the White House, right? And they were like, it totally was like completely huge, and they were looking at it from the satellite, and they said, you guys weigh the density and everything, and they said you were at like 1.5 million people or something there.
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do?
I like how they turned off the Capitol cameras that day. You know, usually they have the live cams, so they turned them off. They didn't want the people to see that we had 1.5 million people there.
Yes, very exciting.
A few times, yeah, it is exciting. It's really fun to be there and feel that energy.
So, do you think Barack Obama is actually going to come? I mean, we've extended Barack. You're more than welcome to come and speak. We want to hear about how you were a fiscal conservative. This is your time.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll come?
I certainly hope so. He's our president. He should come. I mean, that's kind of like his job to. It's a presidential debate.
1.5 million people are coming, and they want to hear about what you're going to do to sit there and fix our economy. You're supposed to be our leader. I mean, like, this is a presidential debate, right?
Yeah. That's what he's supposed to do for his party. I mean, he's there to represent the Democrats. He's stated he wants to run again. It's his debate.
Do you know about anybody running against Barack Obama?
What do you mean? What do you know?
Well, I don't know. I'm like, somebody's got to run against him.
You mean like a secret one? They're not all out yet, so I'm not sure. I don't have a favorite yet. I know that.
That would be kind of exciting if Democrats thought that they could put somebody up to run against them that would actually be fiscally conservative.
I wondered for a while if they were going to try that, but I don't think they will.
No.
I think no. I would if I was a Democrat, because I think he'd be easy to beat.
Very exciting.
Aren't we bad?
Yes,
we are. Is this being filmed? Oh,
yes, it's filmed on TV. It's crazy. But you can say whatever you want.
We speak the truth. We're not fibbing. No,
absolutely not.
No.
So, is there anything you want to tell the viewing audience about this tea party, that they should come and bring their tea bags and their outfits? And I mean, like, you guys get some crazy costumes going, right?
Well, yeah, I'd say definitely wear your fun clothes. Your red, white, and blue. It is a chance for like a party, and people do dress up. We wear red, white, and blue leis and hats, and some people go crazy with their costumes. Uncle Sam costumes, you name it. It is fun. We're celebrating our country. It's not just a serious time. It's a fun time, and you'll love it.
Well, how would people be able to get in contact with your guys' group if they want to? They're going to be candidates. Maybe they're not going to run for president, but they think they're exciting people that might want to be a senator or something like that, and they want to speak in front of 1.5 million people. Can you tell me how they can get in touch with you guys?
Sure. It would be the easiest way is through my website, and it's easy. It's just www.napateaparty.com.
Awesome.
And all my contact information is there, and it's real easy.
And what about for the rest of the Tea Party Express? Is there?
I would be the local contact for that rally, but Amy Kremers, the chairman of the Tea Party Express movement, Our Country Deserves Better is the PAC, that they work through. But Amy's easy to get on Facebook. Send her a note on Facebook. She's very easy to approach. She is overwhelmed right now. She's at the debates in New Hampshire. That lady just lives on the plane lately. I mean, she's given her life for this movement. Yes. She's a wonderful person.
I saw her on TV just a little bit ago. It was very exciting. She's a very cool lady.
She's doing a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, they're trying to corner her. That Joy Behar lady, ooh, she's so mean to her. But, Amy just says the truth. When you aren't lying, you don't have to worry. It's easy just to say the truth.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, this has been a very exciting segment with Miss Pam Silleman. Is there anything you want to say before we cut out?
Register. And register your neighbors and your cousins twice. No, just kidding. Once.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Miss Pam.
Thank you.
Yes. Have a great one.
Hi, I'm Sam Paredes, Executive Director of Gun Owners of California. And if you'd like to have fun while you fight for your Second Amendment rights, come to our website at www.gunownersca.com. That's GUNOWNERSCA.com. You can find out about some of the great dinners that we have throughout the state of California where people can win guns and prizes and raffle items and auctions and spend time with people who also believe in the Second Amendment. Or you can buy a raffle ticket for our 52 guns in 52-week raffle, where we raffle off one gun every week of the year, and we announce it on California Sportsman, Sepp Hendrickson's show on the radio. We have a lot of fun in this fight, even though it is a very serious fight. We invite you to join us. Thank you, and God bless you.
Hi, welcome back to our show. Today we have a very special guest, Dan Catania. He is the co-founder of Tea Party United and Educating America. He's a very cool guy. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Well, thank you, George.
Absolutely. So tell me, what is the deal with Educating America?
Well, it's actually Tea Party United, and that's our slogan, Educating America.
Oh, okay.
And our idea was to try and get all, not just Tea Party groups, but all the conservative groups throughout California, but not just California. If we could get all the conservative groups working together, marching in the same direction, and educate America to what is really going on in the country. Because as it stands right now, we have to rely on the news media. And we know that the news media is not just misleading us, they're hiding a lot of facts from us. They're telling us a lot of sensational stories that are going on there do not really pertain to our life whatsoever. And we live in such precarious times. There's things going on all over the world. For example, we see what's going on in Greece, but we only see a little tip of the iceberg. We see what's going on in Europe. But only the sensationalized parts, the cars burning in the streets and so forth and so on, they don't really get into the root cause of why those cars are burning in the streets and why that could very easily happen here in this country. Another thing that's going on, a lot of people don't realize, is that our children are becoming indoctrinated through the schools. And a lot of the things that parents don't necessarily agree with, the schools are taking control of their thought process and their values of life and everything else. And the kids are really being dumbed down. Let's face it. When you turn the TV on, what do you see? Sex and violence. That's all you see. And so the kids have they have this idea, well, gee, that's so cool. And they've taken God out of the classroom and instead instilled all these other social issues. And when that happened, a lot of people don't realize that back in the 60s, when they took God out of the classroom and started demonizing a lot of the things that the parents were teaching at that time. If you look, that goes right back down to when the dropout rate started to raise and the academic achievement of the children started to drop. And if we can change some of that by educating the parents, for example, a lot of parents don't realize that a 12-year-old girl could be treated for venereal disease without the parents knowing about it.
Is that right?
That's absolutely true. Not only that, but they could be treated for abortions. In some states, they could actually have an abortion without the parents knowing about it. 12-year-old. Now, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is, in my opinion, and it's not that far-fetched, but a lot of these things, when I studied history as a younger guy, and I used to study the Second World War, and in fact, I took a trip back there in the 70s, a vacation a couple of times. And during that point in time, I visited, I think it was about like 1972, 1973, I visited Dachau prison camp. And while I was there, I met a minister by a shrine in the back of Dachau prison camp. And he immediately came up to me and asked me, he says, "Are you an American?" And I says, "Yes, I am." And he shook my hand. He says, "I want to thank you." He says, "Because it was probably your father or maybe your uncle that liberated me from this camp because I was interned here." And he says, "I was a Lutheran minister." So he went on to tell me this story that the only reason that he survived is because he was young enough to survive the starvation, or the hard work rather, but he was old enough to survive the starvation also. So he was right there in the middle. Younger kids died because of the starvation and malnutrition. Older people died because of the really rancor, rigorous labor that they put these inmates into. And of course, we all know the story of the concentration camps. But one thing that stuck in my mind that this minister told me, he says that when Adolf Hitler was coming to power, they knew a lot of things were wrong. They knew they were taking the children over. They were having children go to special, I forget exactly what the name was. It was for camp that they had on Saturday. And at first the state says, "Well, we would like your children to go to camp on Saturday." Then after that they says, "Well, if your children don't go to camp on Saturday, we're going to fine you so many X amount of dollars." At that time, it was a substantial amount of money, like $500, $800. Then they said, "If you miss the second time, then it was jail time if you don't send your children to our camp on Saturday." And that's what happened. And then from there, it just got worse and worse. And we all know the story of the Second World War, how people who absolutely believed in their government and believed in their leaders and went along with all this. At first, it sounded wonderful because they're promising them jobs. They were promising them health care. They promised that everybody would have a car, which they did. They delivered on some of these promises. It was Adolf Hitler and the Nazis that built the freeway system in Germany. This was fantastic. They gave them all jobs. They had health care and all this other stuff. Great education system. It was all free. But the education system was teaching their children their way. And so a lot of these things that I see now that I studied back then, I see creeping into our life now. Not quite as quickly as perhaps happened in Europe back then, but certainly as quickly as it's happened in Venezuela a few years ago, and certainly as quickly as it happened in Cuba when the news media was, people go back to the 50s when the communists took over Cuba, the news media was just absolutely in love with Castro. They thought that this was wonderful. Castro promised them free health care. He promised them free education. They got free education. They got free health care. Not something that you and I would want, but certainly they got what they were promised and delivered. Then the news media all of a sudden found out that, you know what, they're not needed so much anymore. Castro decided that, yeah, I needed you when I needed you, but now that I don't, get out. And it only is one state news media. And you see that going on in Venezuela today. The Venezuelans, when Hugo Chavez was running for his first election. Oh, this is wonderful. He's sticking his finger right in the eye of the United States, calling us names and everything. This was great for the news media back there. People loved it. Then as Hugo Chavez started socializing everything and taking over the oil wells and started taking over all the businesses and then taking over the newspapers, and people started standing up and saying, well, we don't like this. We don't like it. Well, it's too late then. See, then Hugo Chavez says, well, we don't care what you like. It's what we like that counts. And we see that happening right now. But the people aren't aware of it because the news media is not talking about it. Not all the news media. Some news media is, but very, very few. And again, it's short-lived because they go for the sensationalism. So, in a very long context, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate America because personally, I don't believe in Democrat or Republican or independent or libertarian. I believe in Americans. And there are so many good people out there that are Republican, very, very good people that are Democrats, and a lot of good people that are independents. But they don't know that they think alike because they're certainly, like I was raised a Democrat all my life. My father was a staunch Roosevelt Democrat. He believed that Roosevelt cured all the problems of the world. Well, we're finding out now in history, on the History Channel, for example, that Roosevelt wasn't this nice old grandfatherly character that we were told, like my parents told me.
Walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah, I mean, he let's face it, he knew he had already signed over, he signed the draft for our people 6 months before he went on radio to tell all the people in America, I will never send your sons and daughters to a foreign nation to go to war. But when he said that, according to the History Channel, which is very well documented, Roosevelt had already signed the order to send the sons and the daughters to England. He had already sent orders to start gearing up for the military to join England. But it was bold-faced lies. And we see bold-faced lies now coming from all different sides.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, go ahead.
No, first time I met Bill Clinton, I was at McClellan Air Force Base standing behind him while he gave a speech. He wasn't going to shut down the base, and then 2 weeks later he shut down the base. So absolutely, I know where you're coming from.
Sure. And a lot of these things, I sit there and I wonder, how much real power does the president have sometimes? I wonder if a lot of these policies aren't in place. When the president gets elected, he sits there behind the Oval Office for the first day, and all of a sudden some guy comes in and says, you know what, all those speeches you gave during the campaign, they sounded really good, but this is what you're going to be doing for the next 4 years, right? I wonder if that stuff really happens. But all I know right now is I am fighting for one thing. I'm fighting for my grandkids. Because I don't care who's labeled what. For example, Bill Clinton came out today, and he's siding with the Republicans today, stating that it's not a good idea to raise taxes. And it's not. Because if we look at the Great Depression, I don't mean the one in the 1930s. I mean the Great Depression that came in just before Calvin Coolidge. During the right after the First World War, 1917, 18, just before the Roaring '20s. Calvin Coolidge came in, and he didn't just slash government spending. He slashed the taxes, and because of that, it opened up the entire capitalist system with all their entrepreneurial spirits. They ushered in the era of inventing the refrigerator, inventing the Model A car, all the inventions that Thomas Edison had, and all the inventions that Henry Ford had, and all of the counterparts, Firestone tires and everything, coming out with something other than balloon tires and so forth and so on. And people prospered. That's what the Roaring '20s were all about. It was all about making money. People were happy because they just came out of a depression. And so what happened right after that was, once again, the government stepped in and they says, oh, wait a second, we have to start raising taxes. You guys are making so much money, we need part of it. So once they started raising the taxes, it started throwing us back into a second dip that was even equally, not quite as bad as the first depression, but that's the one that people remember. And Roosevelt came into power. My parents told me he solved the whole problem of the Depression. Well, finding out now, no, he didn't. No, Roosevelt was all for big government. He started the big government programs, and so he started raising taxes more, and that made the entire economy in the 30s just become stagnant like it is right now today. What got us out of depression was not Roosevelt, it was the war, because then we put people to work building military and armament to send to England. So if it were not for the war, Roosevelt would have never been elected, because that's the reason that he came out with that statement that I will not send your sons and daughters overseas to fight, because he was about to lose the election just a few weeks before the election. The polls showed him down. But Dewey, that wasn't Dewey, I forget who he was running against, the Republican at the time was telling the truth, that we are going to get involved in this war. We have no choice. We're going to be drug into it whether we want it or not. And Roosevelt knew the only way that he could win an election was to come out and lie and say we wouldn't. So it's all about truth and facts. And if we can get the truth and the facts out to people and say, stop all of this fighting. We're not Democrats and Republicans. Politicians are. We're Americans. And I believe the same thing that you believe. I want to raise my children the way I want to raise them. And I'm sure you'd like to raise your children the way you would like to raise your children. And I'm sure Democrats feel that, Republicans and independents, we all feel that. But if they realize right now that that's not what is happening, suddenly I think people become Americans and they won't be Democrats or Republicans anymore. And that's really what we're all about.
Well, that was very exciting. Thanks a lot. Can you tell our viewing audience how they can get a hold of you so that they could join your movement?
Well, you can go to our website, which is www.teapartyunited.us, and you'll see right there it's Educating America. We don't endorse any particular candidate. We're a 501c3. We're educational charity, and we really believe, we truly mean it, we want to get everyone working together and educate the people so they can make a real positive statement this next November 2012. They'll know who they're voting for. They'll know why they're voting for the people. And it won't just be voting for them because they're Democrats or because they're Republicans or because the news media told them to vote for the people. They're going to be voting for that candidate because they know what that candidate stands for. They'll know what that candidate has done and what the candidate that's running for his office plans to do. So it's all about educating America. Thank you.
Our next guest is the lovely Miss Pam Pinkston. She's the co-founder of the Tea Party Activists in Sacramento, California. Pam, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, George.
So what is your organization all about?
Actually, we had some of the freshman assembly people come and talk to us to tell us where we could be the most effective, working to take back our state to its conservative roots. And so the two things they told us is all we're working on right now, and that is recruiting and training conservative constitutional candidates to run in 2012, and circulating a petition for signatures for changing the way unions take their campaign contributions out of member dues. And we need 800,000 signatures on that by October 15th. So we're really needing boots on the ground to help us with that. We are working with iCaucus to do the vetting of candidates that we have recruited. And they also are involved with some of the people that work here at Access Sacramento to do video interviews to get that out so that people can actually see firsthand what these candidates stand for and how they come across. Then the other thing, as part of the process of getting conservatives back into office, we're also going to, pre-campaign time, walk precincts to educate people, to leave information about what our current legislature is doing
Or not doing.
Or not doing, right. But the most shocking things that most people don't know about. And we're hoping that will, the one-to-one contact with them and giving them that information will make them start thinking. So by the time we actually have our conservative constitutional candidates going out and campaigning, they're already attuned to something's wrong and we've got to pay attention. So,
What is an example of something that the legislature is doing that you guys are talking about?
On the fiscal level, the latest was they changed the rules for you to qualify for welfare. You no longer have to prove that you have an older car. You can have a Cadillac Escalade and still get welfare. So, I mean, it's just the next ratcheting, the next step up that pretty much anybody can get on welfare who doesn't want to work. I mean, this is not a need anymore. This is not help somebody out temporarily so they could get, back on their feet and start taking care of themselves and their families. This is a way of life.
But isn't there a cap, like a time cap, a lifetime cap, that you can only have welfare for a certain amount of time?
I thought so too. And honestly, I don't know for sure the details, the truth of whether it looks like they're not enforcing that. And I do remember that the laws had changed and they were supposed to, after 2 years, I believe it was, get them back out to work. It's not happening.
Well, I know there was a problem because before it was that when your time was running out, all you had to do, the women would have to have another baby. So they would get pregnant again to be able to have another baby. And because they changed it to stop that, women started collecting baby daddies rather than babies. And so now you see the women have like 3 or 4 different baby daddies so that they can draw multiple sources of income. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. So what brought you in to become a Tea Party leader?
Well, that's an interesting story. I won't bore you with all the details of it, but at one time I was a bleeding heart liberal. Yeah, I know.
I can't believe that.
And my sons don't believe it either, that I've changed so much. But I attribute the fact that somehow or other I managed to retain the ability to think critically, which the children in the school are not being taught anymore. And at some point, I looked around and I could see, this all sounds great, and gee, I wish everybody would get along. I just want everybody to be happy and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't work. The liberal way of dealing with it to make sure that everybody's happy is to take away from the ones who are actually doing all the work and putting in the sweat and giving it to the ones who aren't. And this was in their mind equality.
Communism.
Yeah. So that made me start opening my eyes and my ears and start paying attention to the other side, the Republican platform, the libertarians. And so over a period of years, I just started incorporating new belief system, my own personal one. It is kind of a combination of libertarian and Republican. And I grew up. The fact of the matter is I grew up. And then when Bush passed TARP, my jaw dropped to the ground. I mean, I already was starting to feel, what is wrong with you, the Republicans during the Bush administration? You're acting like Democrats. You're raising taxes, spending all the money, just like we always said the Democrats did, and now you're doing it. And TARP was the last straw. It was like, this can't go on anymore. And then I started paying attention to the debt and the deficit, and it was like, it was clear. If I didn't get involved, our country is lost, because even the Republicans are allowing this to happen.
Well, the Republicans don't act like Republicans. I hate Bush because he instituted the Army of One, and that really made a lot of soldiers very angry. So your guys' group is making sure that candidates are going to stick to the platform?
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you guys go about making sure that they do that?
Well, we're going to have a series of questions in the process of vetting them. And, you know, they're not going to know ahead of time what these questions are, so they can't prep for it. So if they don't answer the questions properly, then you already know they're not on that page.
Are you going to make them sign any declarations? I heard 700 Club said that they were going to have the Tea Party make the legislators that are people who wanting to run for as candidates sign a declaration saying that they're committed to staying with certain points. Are you guys doing anything with that?
Probably. We're working with iCaucus, and it's I've just been brought in to that organization. I'm not privy to all the details yet, but I'm sure it will be something in that line.
I would definitely make sure that you have them sign a declaration saying that they agree to support the platform and not go outside the platform. And then a lot of the legislators, like we had Tim Donnelly come on, he said that, you know, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, if they don't support the platform, you have to treat them like somebody who's an enemy of our party, and you have to kick them out, because you're going to want to run for election again, and next time you're just not going to have the people there that they know that you're a fraud.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very good. So you guys have monthly meetings. When are your meetings for your organization?
Our meetings generally are on the 4th Thursday of the month at Carmichael Library. So our next meeting is July the 28th. We're going to have Sam Paredes speaking to us on confrontational politics, so it should be very interesting. Not that I'm really into trying to argue with liberals, because I think, honestly, I think they're insane. I mean, their whole thing is, don't confuse me with the facts, my mind is made up. Even when you've proven that there are certain points in your discussion that they bring up that you agree with, it's like they don't even hear it. So, but the more active I get in politics, I know I do need, under certain circumstances, I do need that tool. And so I'm really looking forward to what Sam has to say to help me to deal with that kind of insanity.
He's a very good speaker. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I've heard him before, and I absolutely agree. Our next working meeting is the second Thursday of the month. That would be August 11th, and that will be at Sylvan Oaks Library on Auburn and Dewey. And there is where we actually, each of our committees that are working on the different aspects of our projects, the candidate recruitment and training, precinct walking, vetting, that's a working meeting. So we all get caught up on what point we're at and what we still need in the way of boots on the ground and resources, and strategize to move forward on the plan. It's a very important meeting.
So you're just somebody who came in off the streets because you were fed up with the way the government was run, and you came over and already became a leader like this? That's amazing. Can anybody come and help you with your organization?
Anybody. All we need is the fire in your heart and the clear vision, and you know enough already if you've been paying attention. So we just need whatever time. You don't have to dedicate. For me, this is a second job, or my only job, because I'm retired now. We don't need you to that level. If you've got a couple of hours, whatever you can give. We can't waste time anymore. Conservatives have waited way too long to organize and get moving. And I'm inviting you all now to see that, get up off your couches, dedicate whatever time you have to make a difference, because we're not going to get another chance. So, and we will give you all the tools you need. We will work with your limitations. We'll put you where you feel you're qualified to do the work. There's always something, and we need you. So please come.
Ms. Pam, is there any way you could give a viewing audience contact information, or refers to a website or something where people can find out more information?
Yes, at this point we do not yet have a website, although we are working on it. So until that happens, you can get a hold of me by emailing me at Pam Pink, the color pink, that's PAMPINK at PacBell, PACBELL.net. And I will assure you that I will immediately respond. I check my email every day, and I look forward to talking to you and meeting you.
Well, thank you so much, Pam. It's been awesome.
Thank you, George.
Everybody, this concludes a very exciting Tea Party episode, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you.
God bless America, my home.